So, you got to be in it to win it.
For sure.
There's other one-liners about lottery tickets, but I'm going to just leave those to the commercials and say who has a property to pitch, a listing coming soon, something you want to bring to the attention of everyone on the session. Alicia, I see your hand up. Otherwise, put them up digitally, y'all, if you can. Oh, I see Vinny's. Okay, romper room. Go, Alicia.
Hopefully this will come through. If not, I'll drop it in the chat. I have a coming soon in Chula Vista. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath, end unit townhome that is over 1,700 square feet. It has a 2-car garage and 1 assigned spot, so you get 3 parking spots with that. It is west of the 805, north of Main Street. We're probably going to be listing around 6:15ish, and I will give the address as soon as I get it actually signed, because this just came about 2 hours ago. So, and thanks,
Awesome.
Nicole, so much for getting me that net sheet within like 3 minutes. Appreciate you.
Nice. Excellent work. Vinny, you're next.
All right, so we just put 2 on the market. One's 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath in Eastlake, 929, showing this Saturday. So if you have a buyer, and then the condo that was off market before, we've just put it on market, 1 bedroom, 1 bath in South Mission. So if you have a buyer for that, and then we still have our 2-bedroom, 2-bath that's vacant that I posted. So if you're looking for an open house opportunity, it's vacant condo in Chula Vista. That's 474.
Excellent. Will you drop some of those details in the chat as well? And did anyone else have a property? I see you shaking your head now. Does anyone else have a property to pitch or coming soon to bring to everyone's attention? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, friends, take it to the chat if you haven't raised your hand. And I called today's meeting Winning Through Community Connections and Conversations. I mean, I'm a sucker for alliteration, let's be honest. And we're going to start off with community and connections through Red Day. You have so much opportunity to make this event something that isn't just something that fills your heart bucket and gives back for you, but also allows you to market and share and tell the community what's happening and share how they can get involved. And when you learn all about Red Day, which I know we looked at sharing the video on the Zoom meeting last week, and then we ended up putting on the Facebook page. If you're not familiar with all the details of Red Day, it is in honor of Mo Anderson's birthday. It is a pillar of our cultural. Oh, you just got pinned. I see you pinned, Amy and Gary. Hello. We have our Queen of Culture is Bridget, and when we're looking through who's going to be the Red Day event that we all work towards, what are we going to do? Amy raised her hand. I've been coaching Amy for a while and so excited to hear the work that Gary has been putting into his project. I'm going to let them share about it and not muck up any of the words that they'll deliver so beautifully. I promise you, I'm giving you the preamble because I don't want you to hear this as just an event that happens a day where you give back. It is so much more than that. And it is a company, it's a global movement, it's an honor of people. It is a true change agent for how people run their business. And whether it's super meaningful in the day to you or not, I promise charitable work and community work and events in this way are meaningful to your database as well. So I'm not saying to market it to benefit your business and grow your world, although it should. I'm saying do it for both reasons. Let it fill your heart bucket and let it fill your business bucket as well. Okay. So, Amy and Gary, tell us what our Red Day event is this year and give us all the good details on Gary's project.
Okay, so I know this is a little bit different than some of the Red Days that we've done the past few years. Like Sarah was saying, we've done kind of marketing to our database to collect food and collect clothes and what have you. We're going to kind of backtrack to some things that we've done in the past where we just show up as a group to do a community service experience that doesn't involve our clients. And for those of you, Gary's my husband, for those of you that don't know, and we actually work together, which you won't see both of us in the office together for those of you that are newer. But a few years ago, Gary started a nonprofit community service project. And basically what it is, and I think you guys talked about it at the last meeting, you put it in the chat with the link to his website. Basically what it is the opportunity in public parks for visitors to the park to pick up litter along the walking paths and along the routes. And it's called Total Altruism Project. Tap into it. And these litter grabbing tools are displayed around public parks. We're in 5 parks right now. We just opened up our 5th one on Monday. And basically what we want to do is take these tools and take Gary's project down to an area where we can serve the community together as a group. In speaking with the rest of our ALC, I volunteered to head up Red Day with this project. And nobody on the ALC said no. So here we are. So this is what we're going to do. Let me share my screen. We are going to be, no, Evie does not have it. She asked me to share. How do I share? Share screen. And there's the map. Okay. So if you guys are familiar with Lake Murray, we currently do not have the tools up at Lake Murray itself, but we do have them in the park and the baseball field nearby.
Which is right near number 1.
Yeah, right above number 1 is where we're currently displayed. So what we want to do is kind of a beach cleanup at Lake Murray. They do offer down at the lake fishing and different family and boating experiences. And so we know all around the pathways and around the waterfront of the lake, there's a lot of debris and a lot of trash that needs to be picked up. You have something to say?
Yeah, so I was gonna say we got 1 and number 2. These are like 2 staging areas. It's the lake, all the way around the lake is about 3 miles. Okay, so we'll have one group meet at number 1, and if you look down at the bottom, that's off of 6308 Park Ridge Boulevard, which is up here. So you'd be driving in through the ball fields, and you'd be parking right here by the lake. There's a lake entrance. One group will go to the west and clean up litter using these tools, and these nets that are tethered to it are really easy to hold on to and to put trash in and walk around and just kind of be mindless about it. You could do a type of meditation while you're doing it, and just have fun and whatever. Another group will go to the northeast, and they'll probably meet up with a group that meets over at, there's a boat launch right here, Starbucks and Lake Murray Boulevard. There's a Starbucks on Lake Murray Boulevard, which is down here, and that's the entrance to it. And you'll drive around, and right about number here, there's an upper parking lot. So we'll break out into 2 groups. One group will go in this direction and find any litter and pick it up, and the other group will go out here until they meet up with the group that started off at 1. So that's the idea. We will need, I have boxes and boxes of these things. I mean, there's like, I'll have 100 of these grabbers. I don't know how many people will be attending, but they'll have enough for each person. But we would like somebody for each group to like have a baby stroller, a dog stroller, or a little wagon that will hold trash bags, big trash bags. And they'll just go around carting it. And when these little nets are filled up, you can empty it into the trash bag and then keep going on your way.
So as far as the semantics of the day, I'll be working with the culture committee, and we'll just kind of figure out how we're going to separate, how we're going to get to the lake, all of the little semantics of the day. But that's pretty much what we're planning to do. Does anybody have any questions? No questions. Excellent. I will actually bring some of these tools to our next in-person meeting so you guys can kind of see what we're talking about. I know it's hard to tell just here on the screen.
It makes it really easy and fun, and it's really well received in all the parks. Matter of fact, I just opened up another park at Colina del Sol. And it's been well received there. So everything's going well here, and it should be a lot of fun.
The question on the chat, Red Day is always in May. It is on May 9th, which is a Thursday. And yeah, so we'll be meeting at the office early before we actually go out to the event, for those that can meet at the office for kind of like a get ready, and then we'll meet at the lake. But we'll go through those details once we tighten them up in the next couple of weeks.
Amy and Gary, I don't have a question. I just have excitement to share. Thank you for bringing us into your project. This is so cool. We're really excited.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
excited too.
It's awesome. It's I could go on and on. I will curb my words and just say it's the second Thursday of May. That's in honor of Mo Anderson's birthday. So it's always the second Thursday, whatever date that is. There will be a sponsored breakfast at the office that morning, and then everyone will go out from there. Evie, can you drop the link to the shirt ordering that you put on Facebook in the chat while we're in meeting today as well? Some people already have a Red Day shirt. If you have one, wear it. If you don't have one and you want to purchase one, Evie will drop a link where you can choose your style for Red Day. Amy just dropped in Gary's website for the Total Altruism Project, TAP, which we're so excited about. And it is the photos from this day should, like, you're doing the good. I don't want to downplay what I'm saying about the good you're doing. That's happening for you internally, the camaraderie, the energy, all the goodness. Like the days where we like planted flowers and cleaned things and painted stuff, those red days, the photos just become, you know, part of your year. It's part of your yearbook of life for the year. So participate, even if you don't know anybody, even if you're new, even if you don't, you know, I don't usually do this kind of thing. Whatever your limiting beliefs in your brain about why you wouldn't necessarily participate, please come. Please sign up. If you don't get a Red Day shirt that says Red Day, just wear red that day and just participate. It's going to fill your buckets in ways I can't describe ahead of time because you have to just experience it to be part of it. And when you understand that this is not just us here in San Diego, this is Keller Williams globally, give where you live, everyone locally is doing some project locally to give back where they are. It's so cool. It's awesome. And to be part of it is amazing. So if you have questions, reach out to me, reach out to Bridget, reach out to anyone on leadership, Evie, reach out to Amy to talk about what's going on with the project. We are here to answer any questions. Everyone is invited. Please hear that clearly. And that is the first part of the topic of today, community and connections. This is giving back to the community and it's making connections. It's making connections locally to the agents in your market center that you're working with. It's making connections in any Red Day activity that you do when you're talking to your database and communicating with what you're doing. It's paying back dividends in the future as you go on, and it's going to be awesome. For the next part of our conversation on community connections and conversations today, I'm going to start with Stephanie. I have Stephanie because we might take the whole time. And if the other part that I wanted to do is shine some light on Gary Keller's vision speech, Evie, will you unpin me so I can see everybody's faces?
You got it. Let me see and try to figure it out.
So much of me in my own face. It's like a lot. If you haven't watched the vision speech from Family Reunion yet, that is the third layer of today's conversation. I'm going to go to Stephanie first because I do think it's more important. Not that Gary Keller is not most important in, you know, the Keller Williams world, but that exists on Connect. And what I want to do is show you guys the highlights of a few important pieces. That came to my brain this week because we've had so much conversation around the NAR, the updates, the buyer agency agreement and what's going on, that I want to make sure we don't lose sight of what we're actually doing in our whole career, in our whole real estate world, outside of just dealing with buyer agency commission and the changes and what's happening. So that's where I'll highlight what's going on in the vision speech. I might not get to it on today's call. And if that's what happens, I'll just highlight on the Facebook page the slides that I want you guys to make sure you're looking at and talking to your network and your database about in those conversations. The other most important thing that came up for me in a mastermind today was it's April 3rd. So has everyone on this call already paid their taxes or plans on paying them on time? And if you're business filing and you have different quarters and you're doing other things, this isn't to talk about the way you file your financials. It's just to make sure that we talk about it in general. And it's the conversation that if you aren't having it with yourself, the day the IRS sends you letters in the mail, you'll start having it then. So since no one talks about it typically in business, I want to make sure every single one of you hears it clearly from us in leadership. And it's just like anything else. When you ignore it, it does not go away. It just gets worse. So if you need help, I'm not an accountant or an IRS executive or any of those things, but we will be happy to connect you with the right people to make sure you're handling it. I was one of the real estate agents that started my business the right way and was signed up for my accounting thing and did all the things, and then was like, I mean, I could just skip a little bit. It's not a big deal. Y'all, it's always a big deal. So face it, deal with it, have it head on. And I wanted to make sure I'm saying that to you in clear communication because it's time. It is time. All right, Stephanie, my friend. Okay. I run Cappers Academy. It's something I started doing this year, and it's my way of having like my next like future ALC, future top producers, whatever you want to call it. I don't like putting people in buckets that way. And yet I think that as everyone here is working so hard and producing, it's like pulling a group through and having that consistent mastermind. It's honestly, it's selfish for me. It's fun for me, and it's been fun for them. I'm going to be bringing stories to y'all that are coming out of Capper Academy because just like so many of our agents in our ALC interviews, there's magical things happening everywhere. And what I want to make sure we're doing as a market center is highlighting them internally so y'all can see from each other, not just from us telling you what's possible, but hearing it from each other and what's possible within. So 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, I said, all right, you guys, let's go around and tell me something good. What's your win of the week? And Stephanie started sharing this one of the week. And it's not, I want to be really clear. If you saw that beautiful home that she got off market, you're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. This is not about the price point that the house sold for over $5.4 million, I think, right? That's fun. It's a fun side note. That's not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is, Stephanie, and I want you just to walk us all through it. And I'm going to ask you a couple background questions as well. How many closings did you have before this one yesterday?
I had a whole 4 closings, a whopping 4.
Okay. And something's happening with start sharing my video, but I'm going to ignore that. Okay, so 4 closings before. And what I want people to hear is that it's possible for everyone. Everyone can do this. Stephanie, how long have you been licensed?
About a little over 2 years, I think.
Okay. And how long have you been working like full time in your business, treating it like a business?
I'd say, really like, well, treating it like a business or like pandering at it full time. So treating it like a business, I'd say probably a year.
Okay. I love the honesty. Yeah. Treating it like a business because it is, right? And I love that you reflected like actually treating it like a business. Yes. So where did you meet the client that you closed yesterday?
I met them at an open house.
You were hosting the open house.
I was hosting an open house. Yeah.
Okay. So they walk in, talk us through what happens.
They walked in, I said hello, and introduced myself and let them tour around. And on their way out, I asked them what their thoughts were about the house, and they said that it wasn't for them. And I think I believe I asked, are you active? Did you find us on Zillow or did you just follow the signs? Because that was an indication to me of whether they were looking or just walking by. And so they were actually shopping for a house. So I said, well, what about this house doesn't work for you? Or, tell me more about what you are looking for. And so I engaged them in conversation and I asked them questions about what they were looking for and why it was important to them. And in that conversation, I asked them if they were working with a real estate agent.
Okay. And so they said
that they were talking to somebody, but they were not committed. And I was feeling bold and I said, well, I'd love to show you why you should work with me. And I'd love to work with you.
Is that the first time you ever said that to someone at an open house?
Yes.
It is. I didn't know the answer to that question. It is the first time.
It is the first time.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And what did they say next?
They said, okay, well, we're open to working with whoever. And, you know, as they were telling me what they were looking for, I thought of this house, actually two houses that I knew were not on the market, because I knew that they were already looking online and seeing what was available. And I told them to, if they had time, to drive over and take a look and let me know what they thought. And we
Okay.
exchanged phone numbers and
Okay, so you exchanged numbers, you got their details, you asked them what they were looking for. You made it about them, right? You said, tell me more about that, what's important to you, asking the questions to the potential client to make sure you're helping service their wants and needs versus just like, hey, work with me, pick me, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's a differentiator, and I want to make sure people hear that, because sometimes we think like, why does someone want to talk to me? Why does someone want to engage with me? It really comes down to the energy you're bringing and the questions you're asking if they want to communicate back with you. There's more, but that's always a good starting off point, right? All right, now let's back out of the story where we are right now, because you happen to know two things off the top of your head. It seems to me, based on your communication with them at that moment, you had an in regardless to make something smart happen, but you happen to know of these two properties already because of another listing you have. So now tell us, back us out of the story now and tell us, why do you know about the two properties that you knew about to begin with?
yeah, so I had this land listing in North PB over by Kate Sessions, and it is a new like an area of new development, and all these new houses are going up in there. And I have been going to Caravan in my neighborhood pretty regularly, and I had seen a house that was new construction. It was really well done. And I thought, what builders do I know in this area who might be interested in buying this piece of property, and developing it and then selling it after they develop it? And so I looked up.
Time out. Okay, so because there's important, like Stephanie can tell her story and it will be amazing, and we'll be happy for Stephanie and we'll celebrate Stephanie. I want to be sure that everyone who's listening has a takeaway where you understand what's the purpose of sharing this story with the whole group, right? She just said in the course of her business life, she's regularly going to Caravan in her area where she wants to see properties and preview them. This is giving her familiarity with new construction going up and seeing what builders are doing such. And now putting the dots together, I have land. Now keep going.
Yes, so I have land and I wanted a good builder to buy it, and I'm trying to find a buyer. So I did my research and tried to remember, and went back to the properties that I had seen that were new construction. I reached out to my title rep and got some contact information, and gave him a phone call to see if maybe he would be interested.
So you saw properties that were new construction. So you looked them up, found their addresses, and sent your addresses to your title rep and said, give me information that you can as to who I can contact from these. Because a lot of people hear it and go like, if we don't really go into step by step, people go like, I still don't know what you mean. How do you do that? Right. So, all right, you did that. You got phone numbers. Now what?
And then I called him and I told him about my land that I had for sale, and I asked him if he was interested. And he said that he had two properties currently that were not on the market, but he needed to sell before he could move on to his next project. So no, he wasn't really interested in the land right now. But if I had any buyers who happened to be interested in house number 1 or house number 2, I should bring them on over.
Okay. So how long before your open house where you met this client did that conversation happen? Approximately. You're not on trial. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'd say that conversation happened in November.
Okay.
And my buyers walked into my open house in February, I think, February.
Okay. So part of that and what we've talked about is I keep going back to the Martin Luther King statement about you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. And it's the same as just putting yourself in the way of real estate business, putting yourself going on Caravan, looking at new properties, having conversations with people. You don't know what the outcomes will be half the time. I don't know. I'm not a statistician. Much of the time, we don't know what the outcome will be. We know that when we're having real estate conversations and we're involved with real estate moments, we're building upon it and we're building upon it, and the compound effect is real. And at some point, synapses fire and things come together and you can connect the dots, right? So November, this happened. Fast forward to February, you're at the open house, you meet the clients. Had you ever brought anybody else by these places?
No, I had one client who I thought might be a fit, but the price point was a little too high and she wasn't ready to go yet. So
Okay. So
yeah.
the open house people are like, okay, go drive by, take a look. Were you worried that they would drive by and try to figure out how to buy it without you?
No, they had made it clear in our conversations that, in our initial meeting conversation, that if I gave them the address, they would absolutely use me to buy it. They weren't trying to be weird, sneaky.
Okay. Future World will have us have to use a buyer agency commission agreement in that procedure, so that will not matter going forward. In this case, it all worked out the way it did. So now bring us back to, you give them the address. If I have these properties, go take a look at them.
Yeah, so they went and they took a look at it and they texted me right away and said that they wanted to know more information, and the house next door looked abandoned, so they wanted to know what was going on with that. And after they wanted more information, I called the seller back and I had to scramble to find his phone number because I could not remember where I wrote it down.
Love the honesty. It's real, right? So you call the seller back, you say, hey, I think I have a client. What happens next?
He was super accommodating and really excited that he might have a buyer. And he said, well, if they want to see the house, and want to take a look around, let's make an appointment. And I said, okay, that sounds great. So I reached back out and I said, anytime you want to see the house, we'll make it happen.
At what point did you get something signed with him?
With the owner of the house? So after my clients previewed the home, and they were interested, it wasn't just like a wash, then I knew, Steve had told me that I needed to get an agreement signed before I sent over any kind of offer or had any further conversation. So I had just landed in Las Vegas and made it to family reunion. And I was sitting in the lobby right outside the garage door elevators, trying to find a quiet place to negotiate my butt off and get paid for selling his house. I was so nervous.
You were nervous, but what percent did you go in with?
So Steve coached me and said, it's an off market. He's not even on the market. He's not going to find a buyer any other way. Ask for 3% and ask him if you could represent him as well. And if he wanted you to represent him, then you could do the whole deal for 4%. And so
what happened?
What I did. I asked him if I could represent him, and he said no, he wanted to represent himself. And we had a little back and forth about that, about why using me would be better. But at the end of the day, he wanted to represent himself. And so he said 2.5. And I said, well, this is an off-market deal. It's kind of a special circumstance. How about we say 3? And he agreed. He agreed to 3%.
Of $5.4 million.
Yeah.
I just, so Stephanie called me and I was like, wait, what percent did you negotiate for yourself? And she's a 3. And I was like, you got 3% on 5.4 million. She was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, great job. I don't think that's typical, but amazing work. And then, okay, so now you have the contract, you have the offer, you wrote in the percentage, you're moving forward. What else do you think that everyone needs to hear about this process with you?
It was certainly unique because he was representing himself, and I've never dealt with that before. But also while we were going back and forth on price point, because my buyers didn't want to, he wanted 5.5, and we looked at the market and we thought that, 5.25 was a good offer. And he wasn't happy about that. And so we were negotiating back and forth, and at the end of the day, in order to get the deal made and for everybody to be happy, he brought up my commission again and wanted to take it down to 2.5. And I initially said no, that we've already negotiated. This is why we do it at the beginning. So that's already done and, not a thought. But he brought it up 2 more times. And I was really nervous that I would lose the deal and that he wouldn't accept it. Although Steve told me no, he would have sold it at 3%. But at the end of the day, I really, and with some Capper Academy coaching, I really wanted to make everybody feel like, and this is part of why I love Keller Williams, right? Because it should be win-win. And it shouldn't just be win-win, it should be win-win-win, right? Because we're in the middle of it too, even though I hated feeling like my commission, I couldn't, like, it was weird to try to do my job with my commission in mind. But at the end of the day, I wanted my buyers to win and I wanted the seller to win. And so I gave in and I told him that I would do it for a flat fee, which was under the 3%.
And over the 2.5.
And over the 2.5.
Right.
Yeah.
So you negotiated the 3rd layer of win in there for yourself.
Yes.
And kudos to you, because I'll tell you what, Steve was telling her one thing and I was telling her another thing. And we were kind of like mom and dadding it, I guess, even though we weren't talking to each other. But like my whole point that I gave Stephanie for everyone listening was, okay, if these buyers say the seller, I'm always going to ask you guys a question back, right? If the seller said, forget it, never mind, I'm not doing it. And the buyer said, okay, great. Now we want to just go buy a piece of land. What's the cheapest piece of land we can find? We're going to build our own dream home. Would you help them the same way to find the land that you're doing this? And it was me pushing back to Stephanie to make her think about, like, be mindful, which you already were. You didn't need any coaching around it. You needed, it's a lot of money. And when you're thinking about this much in this deal and you've never negotiated an off market, there's a lot of factors, right? The coaching from my perspective was be mindful of the zeros and like letting yourself get distracted based on the dollar amount versus helping the client, right? And Stephanie was hyper aware of that already. So I don't ever want any of the agents to feel like that's us saying like give in and sacrifice whatever you need to get the deal done. It's be mindful of how much it's actually like the value and the worth, and don't put what you just said, don't put your own dollars ahead of your clients getting the deal done, because that's the fiduciary responsibility. I told you then, and I'll tell you now with everybody learning, I wanted to find a way to have you share this, because did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I'm doing and I've got this nailed down?
No.
No, there's not even words, just shaking your head no. Was it convenient and simple and like without any glitches or bumps through the process?
I will say that it was such a complicated deal on paper, but everybody, once the deal, like once we all came to an agreement about price point and everything else was like so easy. Everybody worked together really well. It was very kumbaya after we came to an agreement. And that was like, there were bumps along that road.
Yeah. And what Jacqueline wrote in the chat a few minutes ago was you were nervous and you did it anyway. And that's where I want everyone to hear. It was when Stephanie had the land listing and she was going on Caravan and was like, oh, there's new construction. I wonder if any of those builders would like to build on another lot. Let me call them and ask them, not knowing what would happen, right? Then fast forward, you're at an open house months later and you're like, oh, we're looking, because they weren't even looking in that area, right? They were looking someplace else.
So they were looking on Coronado, but they had thought that Sunset Cliffs was where they really wanted to be. And I will also have you know that in the back of my head, I want people to think about this. I didn't get a buyer broker agreement signed with them, especially because I knew they were talking to another agent, and they were not committed. But so in the back of my head, while I was making the deal and the numbers work for everybody, in the back of my head, I was like, they always have options to go with somebody else. So I was, you know, I worked harder, I think, because well, no, I don't know if I worked harder because of that, but,
you didn't.
Yeah.
You worked as hard as you would work. And what I think it goes back to like, we don't always know why, like what the end result of our action will be. You know, you're talking to builders, you know, you have land, you know, you're being aware of the market, you know, you're doing open houses and engaging them in meaningful conversation to ask what's important to them about the property they're looking at versus spouting nonsense words at them, right? And in doing all of those conversations, you discovered a builder, an off market, a property, and them. And then in the back of your brain, you were like, wait a minute, I know I can put this together and see what it looks like. And that's really what I want everyone to hear is sometimes you're working and you don't know where exactly you're going with your energy. When you keep working consistently, things just happen. It's the popcorn analogy I like to give. You know, the stove is heated up and the popcorn kernels are there and you're putting it all together and you're like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm still here shaking the dang Jiffy Pop thing and what's going to happen. And at some point it starts to pop. And when you're embraced in a culture of people who will help you learn and grow and know how to use your tools and put your connections to work, then you have the resources to gather the popcorn I could go down the road with that analogy for a while, but that's where the magic happens. Okay. I want to open it up if anybody has any questions for you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, Jill, does anybody have any questions for Stephanie about the process or anything?
Just great work, Stephanie. Way to protect your commission.
thank you.
That was Susan, I think, right? Yeah, I heard you, Susan.
Yes.
Anybody else, thoughts, questions? I can keep going, but I wanted to make sure if anybody has anything to ask, you have a moment. I know so many of us are hesitant to take action or figure out why we're doing the things we're doing or wonder if I go on this Caravan or go to look up properties, does this count for work? Yes, it does. You just have to do the other things as well. Stephanie, what do you want everyone to hear from you? Because now this is your what? This is your fifth closing.
Mhm.
It's your most expensive one you've done, certainly. Just opened a door for yourself into the multi-million-dollar club. Was it different than your other closings that cost your lower price points?
It was easier at the end of the day. It was easier. It was really exciting. I think that what I would love everybody else to take away is that I feel like I'm pretty new at this. I've only really kind of started having a little bit of success more recently, and if I can do it, I know that everybody else can do it too. It's just about I think that doing, you know, I was able to put the pieces together because I was consistently doing my job. And what a mindset shift I have had since even just being in the room and having the conversations with the buyer and the seller and showing the house was such a mindset shift for me in just knowing that I can do that and that it can be easy.
So that was the last thing I wanted to make sure you touched on, because when we talked about it, I said, you said this is life-changing commission amount, like to get paid that much money for one piece of business. That's a life-changing transaction amount. But today when I congratulated you, or last night, I forget which one it was, you said it's beyond life-changing, it's mindset changing. So can you expand upon that a little bit, please?
Yeah, I feel like it has shifted me into feeling like I can put these deals together, that doing my job, even though this is my first closing of the year, I've had like nothing since for a while. I think it's been like 6 months without a closing, which is a long time. And I was starting to get really down, and just even having the conversation and showing the house, even though before they wanted to put in an offer, it was a shift in my energy and my perspective that all these little steps can make something so big happen. It doesn't happen overnight, but if you keep putting in the work, it will come back to you. That's the mindset shift that I think I've had.
If you keep putting in the work, it will come back to you. I can't say it better than that. What I want to make sure everyone hears from you, and how I've seen you shine since I've gotten to know you, is you went to Mega Camp not knowing why you would even buy a ticket and go. You then asked, like, should I go to family reunion? Is that for me? And I was like, why, yes, you should. And here's why it would be for you. And that's, to me, part of you just diving in full force to do your job, even though you don't see the whole staircase, but you're taking the steps. You're like, people are doing this, producers are doing this, I want to do this. Is this helpful for me? And now here we are. And I'm excited to highlight your next transaction, whatever the amount is, because it's those pieces of putting the deal together. That's where the magic happens. And it's really rewarding watching you grow and seeing you get so excited in your business. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. If nobody else has any questions, I will. John Fields wants to know if you're going to take your commission and buy his downtown listing. You've motivated many today, and that's what I love. I hope everyone's learned something from this. I'm going to grab those few key slides off Gary's vision speech and make sure y'all know where that link is. It's the first few minutes, and I'll time them out and bookmark them for you. I want everyone to see it and understand that is part of like having that awareness, listening to that conversation from the stage, understanding the grand scheme of real estate and the market in general, ties into coming to Market Stats and listening to our hyper local market, and puts it all together with the media and the conversations, which empowers y'all to go out and talk to your clients and your people in your sphere and answer the questions. I mean, if you're not getting asked by people, what's all this news in the real estate market? What's the media talking about? What's happening? What's going on with interest rates? If people aren't asking you questions, you're not loud enough. People don't know you're a real estate agent, and go figure out how to broadcast it to more people. Go to your caravans, hold your open houses, ask the right questions, and put together those deals. We have a bunch of off markets happening internally as well, where people are connecting the dots. That's going to get featured on an upcoming conversation as well. A realtor, not loud enough. Thank you all. Next week, we'll be here for Vinny's fabulous session on his life as a real estate agent and the ALC. Don't miss that one. Vinny's interviews always leave something magical behind. Have a great day, everybody. See you soon.